What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Finding Hope podcast. I'm your host, Kayla Bundy, and today we have a returning guest. You guys probably know her as the holistic queen who helps women with period recovery and hormones, but today she is just my best friend, and we get to dive into all of the richness of friendship, the struggles, the questions some of you guys sent in, and just navigating it. So, welcome to the podcast, Lena.
Thank you, Kayla.
And I feel like when
I'm so excited.
I feel like when I said she is just my best friend, she's so much more than that. It's not a just. She is God's incredible creation, and it's just been an honor to steward friendship with you.
Oh, it's been such an honor. Right back at you.
So in today's episode, what you guys can expect to walk away from is having some practical tools and tips on navigating friendship. We're going to talk about 4 to 5 pillars that we truly believe make friendship last for any amount of time and have a quality that truly reflects God's quality of relationship with us. Before we continue, we need to first grab our little beveraginos. And wherever you're watching, whether you're on a walk, whether you're in the car, you're on a bike, if you're in Bali, or you're just sitting at home, grab a kombucha, an iced coffee. We have our little iced espressos with our house-made coconut milk, a concoction. So we're going to see how they turned out. Cheers.
Cheers. Little taste test for
I'll try to give you a little ASMR of the sip. The ice is kind of gone. Okay, let's have a sip. I will be honest, it's not our best, but it's not our worst.
Yeah. That's a good.
There was a different like brand of like the canned coconut milk today that we were working with, and I mean it was a me thing. I think it just threw it all off for me. But it's
nice.
Okay.
So grab your coconuts, your iced coffees, and let's get started.
So the story of how we became friends is quite a fun one. And I'm only going to tell ounces of it because I think it plays into an effect of where we're coming from when we're actually going to talk and answer these questions.
We have a few mutual friends in common, and we went to the same gym for months, essentially. But we've never seen each other. And mind you, this is a super social gym in Bali where you just know everyone and you see everyone, but we never bumped into each other.
And quick little side note too, I also want to say we met in Bali.
Yeah.
And she's from Germany, but was living in Switzerland, Austria, all over. I'm from the States, but was living in Los Angeles. And I thought I would be in Bali for 3 weeks. Ended up being there 9 to 10 months. And this girlie was basically the same. So we both like were on very similar paths when we were meeting.
Exactly. And then you were in Bali, like I'd say like 1 or 2 months before me already. And you'd kind of started this Bible study, which I found out through one of our mutual friends. Shout out.
Shout out Daria.
Daria. And she was like, yeah, there's this Bible study. And I was a pretty new believer, too, during this time. So I was like, oh, my gosh, great. I'm really seeking to grow in my faith, to be surrounded by these women. So I ended up coming, long story short, to one of your Bible studies. And I loved it, but I never thought we'd be sitting here.
Never.
And fast forward, after that Bible study evening, we would bump into each other everywhere. And I saw you in the handstands class randomly. I was like, oh, Kayla. It's you. And so then we'd see each other basically everywhere from that day forward.
Exactly. And then what's just been so crazy is it was a friendship none of us were really expecting. Like, of course, I enjoyed being around her, but it wasn't one that we both met and we were like, we're besties. Like, we both met and really valued what the other person had to say. But it was so cool how God just kept creating moments where we could run into each other and chat and communicate. And I think this kind of plays into where this episode is going to go, of the environments you choose to go to in your day. Because It's not like we were seeking, oh, I want these types of friendships and this type of thing. We were just living the lives that reflect what was important to us.
Yeah.
And so we were around the same environments together. And those environments were such quality. They were all focused on health, on wellness, on the gym, on growing our faith. And so that was a big factor. But flash forward, ends up being where we lived together for about 2 months, at least, sharing the same bed, the same bathroom, every single thing the other person's owned. It has become truly a what's mine is yours scenario. We rode on the same bike. Lena was a great little driver for me. I was a passenger princess. We rode on the same bike. Not only were we sleeping in the same place, it was everything. We would eat at the same places. We'd go everywhere, do the same things.
Yeah.
We'd spend truly all day long from sunrise till we slept. And it's so crazy because, one, I never learned how to share to that extent.
I will sprinkle in there, me either.
And I mean to the point of groceries.
Yeah.
We shared groceries. We shared food. Every little thing you could think of.
Clothing pieces, everything.
Skincare, all of our nicest stuff. What's mine is yours. That's just always been our response to one another. And the cool thing is that within our friendship, as adults, as these businesswomen, having different backgrounds in this hustle culture, all of these things, we never got bored and we never stopped laughing. This has been a friendship that has truly brought out every ounce of my childhood self and my business self. Like, it is not a friendship that checks like one box. It has been one so rich. I learned so much from this woman in faith, in friendship, in business, in mindset, in health. And I think that's been so special where we're able to have conversations during the day where we're praying over one another, we're having strategy sessions for each other's businesses, and then we're ending the night still talking until midnight, laughing our heads off with our good old rice paper face masks. And it feels like we're these 14-year-old sisters.
I truly feel like, especially this time and season that we're in now, our inner children's selves and teenage selves have really been merged with this incredible women and the women that we've grown into and are growing into. And it's truly like this, we can flip the switch and let out that inner child and that child-free kind of joy and tickle that out, but then also be super serious and focused and business mode as well, which is so cool and fun. I feel like I've never really experienced that in any friendship.
Never. It's been the coolest gift. And now where we're currently at and where we're going to continue this episode is I've been now living with Lena in Austria with her family, and we're sitting in the middle of part of their beautiful garden. And it's just been so cool that our friendship has started in Asia and now is in Europe. And it just feels like it's going to go everywhere. And so we have things for the long distance, the everything, and kind of cultivating those adult friendships to reflect God's heart for his children to succeed, for his children to mature, and for his children to still have that childlikeness that that he requires.
So let's dive into the questions that you guys asked on Instagram. We've collected them and have them all here, and we'll kind of be a little interview popcorn style episode. Let's dive into the red and green flags of friendships. I feel like this was such a fun one.
What are the top green flags that come to mind for you?
I feel like it's shared values for sure. And this can be in friendships amongst believers or non-believers. There's some certain type of ground base that lays the foundation, and that would be values for me as number one that comes to mind.
I would say mine, and this goes for red and green flags in friendships and family dynamics and relationships, everything truly, it's one of the core things for me is security and confidence in yourself.
100%.
To identify that. And I think like, I'm not saying that you're full of yourself and you have all these great things and you say all these amazing affirmations over yourself every single day. I'm saying confidence in a way where you are truly unshakable and you know your worth has nothing to do with anything you do, but just the fact you have very breath in your lungs by the Lord himself, you absolutely are set up for such a good place to have the hard things, to have everything else, to when life throws things at you, you're not going to waver, and it creates a big safety net. I would also say a green flag is laughing. Laughing from a place of joy and not making fun.
That's the difference.
I think is so important, because there have been tons of times where I'm laughing my head off with friends, but it's from a negative place. And that was like growing up, I think, where you've really brought out that childlike laughter in me, but it's a whole new way. And it's such a green flag, because now we're laughing at ourselves and we're over here making fun of ourselves. And just not even that, but able to, when we trip, when we fall, when bad things happen and I might want to cry, Lena's going to start laughing her head off and we're basically going to pee our pants. And I think that is such a green flag, the friendships are able to make light of the situations and of each other.
Yeah. And I feel like, too, it brings in a whole new dynamic. If I reflect upon friendships growing up, where sometimes like the difference between like laughing with one another than laughing about someone is different. It's a different kind of atmosphere. Or if we're going to bring up some of our friends, it's always in such a fun way where we're laughing, never about anyone, but we're like, oh my gosh, they're literally just such a fun person to be around. Or like this situation that happened was so funny. And that's how we'll bring light into that as well, which is so cool.
Moving more on to our red flags in friendships. Lena?
I'll start us off. I think one of the biggest ones, and again, you can take this into family dynamics, you can take this into relationships and friendships, wherever, is really just taking offense. I think that really shatters friendships, and any sort of light that could be there is when you just take the little, even if you're offended by the littlest, smallest of details. That's just such a killer for me.
And it's a killer for me because then it feels like I have to walk on eggshells.
Exactly.
And I feel really scared almost of the things I'm going to say, of laughing at situations, because when people are easily offended,
you don't know where you're standing. Even.
I really don't. And I think that also plays into a red flag of mine is lack of communication.
Big.
Because in friendships, of course, you might have times where you're a little hurt and you're a little offended, but the mature thing is to communicate that and to not put walls up. And so I think communication is so important, and that's such a huge red flag when people do not communicate and they decide to proceed without bringing you into what that's going to look like.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's walls up, that's all these things, that's less time together, that's even
silent treatment.
It can be so many things. Or passive aggressive posts. I've seen that in people. And I really think communicating also, though, with the offense thing, those two almost have to go hand in hand.
I was just going to say, those are melted almost.
Melted, because if you communicate with me, but I'm going to be easily offended, that gets our friendship nowhere.
No.
Both people have to be good communicators, healthy communicators, and able to pray away having that offensiveness in them. Because like you said, it could be the smallest things. You could criticize this and be like, yeah, Kayla, this definitely was not as good as what it normally is. And I could be over here being like, well, I tried the best I could. And I was just trying to do something nice for you and you don't even appreciate it. I can have all of these things, or I can be like, yeah, you're right. You know what? I'm glad you said it because I won't make it this same way next time. Whereas if you had lied to my face, I would have suffered myself and kept making it this way when neither one of us even wanted that.
There we go. Communication, big one.
Big one. And then I think,
there's another one that just came to mind.
Amazing. Do share.
I feel like in friendships too, a big red flag is having all of these expectations towards your friends or friendships or people that you might not even be friends with yet, and the types of friendships you're praying for or just yearning for. And just not working on yourself and having all of these expectations, but never holding up the mirror to check in whether you are really stepping up and living in those areas on your own, as opposed to being like pointing fingers and, oh, I want to cherry pick this and this in my friend. Are you doing those things?
I think Proverbs 27:17 wraps this up so beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. I was going through a period in my life where I had fellow Christians around me, fellow Bible studies, all of the things, and I really did not feel appreciated or welcomed as a friend there. I felt like they had this expectation of what can you do for me? What can you do for me? And there was a part of me that really wanted to be friends with them and to feel so included by them, even though I had all these other friends. And this verse really stood out to me because I realized, oh my goodness, you know what? I was looking at it from a zoomed out perspective, and I saw that we have similar interests. We're around the same age. We do similar things. All the little things that we talked about earlier, they all lined up. Honestly, they did. But we were not the iron that the other person needed for one another. And I think, yes, you can have bad friendships when there's unhealthy characteristics, but you can also just not have great friendships when you aren't each other's iron. And like we started this episode off just sort of saying all the areas that I feel like we're able to sharpen each other in. It's so important that, if you want these good friendships, if you want all of these things, one, just maybe take a step back and be like, you know what? I might be the one that's able to sharpen them. They can't sharpen me. Or they might sharpen me, but I'm not at the point where I can sharpen them. And to have that humility and that honesty with yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm so thankful that certain friendships didn't progress into what I thought they should have, or maybe I had wanted to at one point. It's so important that the iron sharpening iron friendships means both people are able to sharpen.
Yeah, because I think otherwise we go into a bit of like a mentor dynamic where grew up. We didn't choose our environment necessarily.
Sorry, guys.
Well, like ASMR.
The last red flag, there's so many, but I think one that's worth touching on is trauma bonding and building a friendship off of a common enemy. I think that's never great unless your common enemy is the devil. It's just not a good thing to ever build a friendship based off of convenience, based off of trauma bonding, and based off of having this common enemy. Because if all of those things get healed and they get solved, it's not like there was richness in the friendship that's holding you together. What's holding you together is a lot of brokenness and not a lot of life.
We got a question. How do you view friendships between people that believe and who are maybe atheists?
Such a good question. I think it, one, really depends on where you are at with your walk with the Lord. And I think we have to look at starting a relationship with Jesus as overcoming addiction. Up until that point where you surrender your life to Jesus, you've been addicted to living in sin and being okay with that. And so I think just like anything with alcoholism, with drug abuse, if you are trying to overcome an addiction, you do not go to the places that are filled with that addiction. Your environment is so controlled. You have so many boundaries. You have so many things that it is taking care of every single box that you could be tempted in, so you don't have to even think about that temptation. And I think that's so important when it comes to friendships, is identifying where you're at with your walk with God. And if you are a new believer, maybe you've known God your whole life, but it looks different now. I think you really have to look at that relationship first as like, actually, I'm breaking this addiction. I'm breaking this addiction to my old habits, to my old ways, to my sinful self, to all of these things that I've become used to and I've normalized. And I think in that stage, it's easy. And I think I've personally seen it a lot of new believers come and they're super vocal on social media. They're all of these things, really miss all their friends. They cut everybody off. They stopped wearing half the clothes they had. They won't wear sports bras anymore. They won't do this. They won't do that. It's starting to drizzle, so we have a little fun moment as well. Yeah. We will see. I just pray that the Lord holds back the rain. And anyways, I think we kind of need to give space for that, because if you were to look at it as an addiction, sometimes you have to be a little extreme in your environments. And sometimes you do have to really remove yourself from friendships, from certain outfit choices, from certain things, because you're in that sensitive space where you need to have those parameters and those boundaries. Viewing friendship in that way with non-believers, all of that, it's important that you cultivate an environment that you're first strong in yourself and in your faith before you're trying to be a light for anyone else. Mm-hmm. And then I think if you have that history with the Lord and you've been building that relationship over time and you're so poured into and you know His word and you're firm in yourself, and of course we're still going to experience temptations, but I think we're called, once we've gotten to that place of maturity spiritually, we're called to be the light in the darkness. We're called to be the light in the world. And so that's where I think all of these extremes are really inappropriate. And I feel like they're not what the Lord had in store at all. And I really think you can easily have the most beautiful friendships with non-believers, because I love to look at it. And we've said this, I think you said this the other day, that you might be the only Bible they ever read.
Yeah.
And so,
or the only church they even walk into.
The only experience of Jesus they ever get in their life. And so our actions, our thought process, our openness, our curiosity, our desire to actually get to know them and love them and build relationships with them is so essential to reflecting the heart of Jesus. Yeah. And it's not just for the people that align every way with you. It's for the people that don't, and with no ulterior motive. The motive is not that, oh, they believe everything I believe. The motive is that I want them to experience an ounce at least of the love and freedom that I have through my Father in heaven. That if I could give them that gift, and if I could extend that gift through everything that I do, the way I hug them, the way I greet them, the way I make food for them, in everything, that is where I think it's always, you have to look at yourself and where you're at before you discern what friendships to maintain and which ones to distance.
Yeah.
For you, Lena, do you think making quality friendships in adulthood is harder?
I think if we look at our childhood friendships and the way that we grew up, we didn't choose our environment necessarily. We were placed into the environment that our parents were able to afford or where their jobs were. So that's kind of the environment that we were placed into. And then we were sent to school. And those are the friends that we're going to have. Naturally, by spending so much time together, you're going to build some sort of friendships or relationships with them, right? Whereas adults, we have the choice now to take responsibility and to decide what environments we want to put ourselves in. And that can also look either way. And it also depends on our heart posture and whether we're seeking quality friendships or whether we're more in a mode of like self-isolation or thinking it's hard. And in that sense, we do create that reality, whichever we choose to kind of believe in, because those are the actions we're going to take in that area. To answer your question specifically, I actually think it can be easier, but it might be harder in the sense of you got to pour into that and you're going to choose your environment and then decide who to pour into. And that takes stewardship, to link it back to one of our core themes of friendship.
Yeah, I think that's such a good answer. And stewardship is huge. And stewardship in yourself and the places you're going.
Yeah.
And then stewardship in, it does take sometimes a little bit more effort, but it's so worth it.
Yeah.
And really being wise and discerning of who those people are, then saying yes to things, making an effort, texting them, even if you feel like staying in, that stewardship is huge.
Absolutely. I think there's another really common theme that we got in our questions, and that's how to combat loneliness. I feel like both of us, when we've talked, have had those experiences ourselves where we just felt so lonely, and it doesn't matter how many people even you could have been surrounded by in those moments. The loneliness was so deeply felt. So in adulthood, how would you say to go about navigating that loneliness?
I think it really comes down to if you're in those lonely seasons, which I've been in so many times, it's an opportunity to grow that friendship with the Lord. And I think it can be so hard and so difficult and so challenging, but I think it really removes things for you to just focus on Him. And I think just an action step with it too, though, is in that loneliness and in that stewardship and the adult friendships. I also think that as you're using that time to cultivate comfort from God, that you take those actions, because a lot of times in loneliness, we tend to isolate. We tend to stay in.
Yeah.
We would rather just watch a show. We'd rather just call a friend that we used to live near. And we like to kind of stay in that comfort zone. So I would encourage you that in that loneliness, even if you're surrounded by people and you're feeling lonely, I think one is up the communication because there's probably a lack of feeling understood. That was always my cause of loneliness. I didn't feel understood by the people around me. And that was on me to communicate. And then two, I think it's actively make time to go to new places and do new things and to spark up conversations.
Yeah.
And it's a process, but if you sit there and do nothing, nothing gets better. If
Yeah.
you sit there and spend time with the Lord and you go out and seek these things, the Lord says, seek and you will find. So if we're seeking, if we don't want to be in that lonely state, He will provide.
Yeah.
One of my favorite verses that I would reflect on when I was in those seasons is the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. And draw near to Him and He will draw near to you. And those are promises that don't just exist for a moment. They're promises that exist for eternity. And so in those seasons, like truly, you are actually in such a beautiful place because He is so close to you and you're able to feel Him so much more in depth and to a new level of appreciation than you would when you are around friends.
Yeah. I've got another fun question for you.
Throw it at me.
I'm really curious about your answer for this one. What do boundaries look like for you in friendships? This could be Christian friendships, but also just regular friendships.
I think establishing how available you are to that person and communicating that. It really all goes back to communication, to stewardship, to discernment, all of those things. And I think when it comes to boundaries, being clear in what you communicate and the capacity you have. And at times, especially, us women with our cycles, you could ask me for a favor during my ovulation phase and I'm yes, would love to help you. You could ask me for the same favor during my luteal phase and I'm going to be like, oh, I feel pressured to say yes. I'm a people pleaser. I'm all these things and I do it. And then I'm irritated or I'm drained, all of this. And so it's on, I think boundaries are so essential to communicate what your capacity is and to always do it in a way that honors them.
Yeah.
And boundaries are never to keep the person out. It's always how do we bring them closer? And with the communication, that's really where it comes into play.
Yeah.
And I think having those boundaries, it talks about in Proverbs 16:28, a perverse person stirs up conflict and a gossip separates close friends. I think boundaries in what you say is also so essential. And establishing those, not having the gossip, not having these moments that are creating these little wounds, but putting boundaries in place, especially in Christianity. I think in those friendships, there's a high expectation of, well, if you love God, if you're a Christian, you should do X, Y, and Z, where giving space for those capacities to change is really healthy, and making sure your communication is not stirring up conflict and it's not rooted in gossip. And when things do come up, the Bible's so great because it just gives us all the ways to handle it. In Matthew 15:15, it says, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. And I think there with the boundaries, don't not communicate your boundaries and just set the boundaries and walk away. You first have to go to them. And if something is irritating you, or if something is hurtful to you, or if you just, maybe it's none of that, maybe you're just not available, because that's me so much, is I'm really just not available. I'm in a building phase in my life in every area. I don't even know where I'm living. I'm currently just living out of a suitcase, and I've been doing that the last year of my life. So having boundaries of just saying, hey, I can't be there in these ways, and being able to agree and to hear one another out. And if you were to come to me and say something, and when I'm able to have a capacity to understand you, then that's great. And it brings us closer and we run favor. And if not, then that's where it gets to, okay, maybe this is unhealthy, or maybe there needs to be a little bit more distance and I need to adjust my expectations.
Yeah. And also just checking in with, in different stages and phases, even like as you pointed out with women, with our stages of the cycle, being able to communicate that too, and being able to support each other in that, and just seeing that change of maybe even capacity that both bring to the friendship. I think that's also a big one to...
For sure. And boundaries, I think, is huge, to not assume the other person knows what your boundaries are and what's too far, what's too much. And even with us, how we said we have this, oh, what's mine is yours, and we share all of these things, like not assuming, oh, I'm just going to I'm going to do all these things, and it catches you off guard and you're surprised. But still, we communicate that all of the time of, oh, can I borrow this? Oh, can I do this? Can I do that? Even though we're very open with each other.
And we know it's basically unspoken, but we still honor that.
Honor the other person's voice in it.
That's a good one.
I got so many questions about long distance friendships. So do you have any tips for that? Because you've grown up traveling basically your whole life and moving every few years, and then that transitioning to adulthood where then now you're choosing to live other places.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a hard one too, I must say. It breaks the heart a little bit. But yeah, there's definitely some ways to manage that. I think one of those also being expectation management, and again, bringing it back to communication, really also, and this is an area where I really get to step up my stewardship even as I'm reflecting upon this. But sometimes I think one of the main ones is definitely also having points of communication and being able to FaceTime or just send a little message, a little photo that popped up on your phone, or if you're doing something that you used to do together that reminds you of the other person, just send that over. There doesn't have to be much context or comment, but it's a sweet little moment to be like, oh, they're thinking of me, and it's so sweet. And not expecting responses immediately either, because we know we're all... life is lifing. We've all got our businesses, our jobs, our life, a different city and a different pace maybe in lifestyle, but still to have those regular little check-in points and points of communication, which is really fun. And I think also when you do have those calls, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, but like I might not even call because I just know it's going to be such a long catch up, which I would love. Like Absolutely. We're both yappers. I would love to just catch up with all of my friends and just yap along. But sometimes you also have to move forward with your day. And I think that, again, circles back to communication, being able to say, hey, I have 10 minutes. I have 15 minutes, however long. I just wanted to check in, say hello. Like, how are you? Ask some questions. And having that boundary in place in that sense, too, to have those more regularly without being like, oh, we haven't talked in so long. It's got to be a long one.
Yes, I think all of that is so, so, so good and something
Yeah.
that both of us are really going to try to carry into this next season of life with our distance we're going to have.
Yeah.
And one of our other amazing girls, we are no longer with her. She's in Bali still. But something that we've all been really intentional about doing is we do this little game, which you should implement it in your long distance friendships because it's such a good way to check in
So fun.
briefly. But it's called High-Low Fairy Frog. I'm going to briefly go through it. And every week we send a video or a voice note to each other. And you say your high of the week, your low of the week, your fairy of the week. And a fairy is someone that made your week better. They were heroic in some way. They bought your coffee. They drove you somewhere. They did something special. And then you say your frog of the week. And this is always our favorite. And the frog of the week is just something random. It could be funny, it could be good, it could be bad, but just something random. And that has really been such a staple in the long distance friendships that we have of being intentional about, okay, I don't need a response on the other end. Every Sunday, I'm going to send you this video saying all these things. It's a quick catch up and you still have that access into each other's lives without it feeling overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I think those small little touch points, sending this story on Instagram, commenting on this, they actually add up to a lot when it's long distance friendships.
Yeah. And I think the last one would also be, we've been doing that too, is asking for prayer requests and then weaving their prayer requests and anything that's going on in their life into your prayer walks or your conversations with the Lord. And that's something really beautiful. We've been able to have a lot of testimonies in this week and just be able to see how God is just so faithful and cares about his daughters and answers these prayers within like a week, not even a couple of days.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful experience too, I would say, for sure.
So beautiful. And with that, our last little question that was sent in was, how can someone start building godly friendships today?
Okay, I'm going to answer this one being faith-based. I think that if you're wanting to start out building your godly friendships, I think one, it's where am I at in my relationship with Jesus? How strong and solid is that foundation and friendship? Because that relationship in itself can take so many dimensions. And
so many.
I'd say I have quite a humorous one at times too, which is really fun. But really to set that as your absolute foundation. Ooh, sorry. To set that as your foundation. And then moving forward, I would even just talk to God about who you're looking for in a friendship and start praying, start asking for those godly friendships and start nurturing and leading in your friendships that are existing and bringing that maybe God-centeredness or faith-centeredness in there together and weaving in little shared moments like going on prayer walks, reading a chapter together, being able to brainstorm, debrief, debunk, listening to a sermon or sending that to each other and being able to work through that, doing devotionals together, little elements that you share that might help both people in that ironing, sharpening iron, and then debriefing that and making the Lord really front and center in that friendship. I think that brings that godliness to a friendship in a way.
I think that's so true. And I think an actionable step with that is the questions you ask each other, because we can talk for hours. Truly, we never run out of things to say. We like to say we're professional yappers, in case you're wondering. But each one of us, we will choose to be intentional about the questions we ask one another. And what did you learn from your reading time with the Lord today? Yeah. What challenged you this week with your walk with God? How did this scenario affect how you view Jesus? Yeah. Like having those intentional questions that are rooted in him, I think is so good.
Absolutely. 100%.
And then from a Christian to non-Christian friendship that's already in existence, I think answering that question of how can someone start building godly friendships with those people that don't necessarily believe if you're the believer, I think godly friendships are built not on us preaching and saying all these things. They are built on the fruits of our character. And we are told that you will be known by your fruits. And so I think to weave in godly relationships and godly dynamics in friendships that don't necessarily have a faith with the Lord, it really starts with your actions, your fruit of the Spirit. And I think a huge one is when we were living in Bali, it's a really small island in this town that we were living in. And I saw the same people probably every single day for about 9 months. And that consistency of character is massive. And I never dreamt of the amount of people that would come to know the Lord, that'd be interested in knowing God. People that I was friends with who were these huge gym bros that were all of these things that I would just never guess they'd want to talk to me about God. But they saw the consistency in my character always. Every day I was showing up the same me. And even if I had low moments, it didn't change the fruits of the Spirit that I had. And so I think having those godly friendships with non-believers, oh my goodness, it is the most convicting thing because it forces you to hold up a mirror and see how much your actions do not preach His word. And how much your thoughts don't preach His word. And it really comes down to you living that out first. And that alone incorporates God into that whole picture. And I think another big one is not being scared to talk about Him. Because, we don't have to preach and all these things and shove it down people's throats. But truly, it's almost impossible for someone to have a conversation with me and I can't mention God. Like, it is in every ounce of my core and everything I do that someone's like, oh, what was the high of your day? Oh my gosh, I had this prayer with the Lord and I had my quiet time with Him and all these things. Or, oh, I love that outfit. Where'd you get it? And I'm like, oh, well, I feel like God was just putting on my heart these colors and all of these things. And it doesn't have to be this, dramatic, serious, sit down. How do I build these godly friendships? I think truly just when He is radiating so much in you, you can't help but talk about Him and it draws those people in. And it doesn't have to be your conversation all the time. But not being scared to mention His name.
I think another fun one that we talked about yesterday or a good side note to that is it doesn't have to be like this aggressive evangelism mission in friendships to make them godly, but your priority and your heart posture should be that that person or friend gets to experience an ounce of Jesus in that, and their salvation should be a priority and not so much whether and when they get saved or whether you manage to evangelize them, because that's never the goal in that sense.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
I feel like you really pointed that out yesterday, and I thought that was beautiful. So if you want to jump in as well.
I feel like what we kind of talked about was just if your goal is to have godly friendships with non-believers, and that's because you want to feel understood by them, you don't want to sacrifice the environments maybe they're going to, you want to have this common thing you both can talk about, that is all just rooted in what pleases you and what satisfies you, which is fine. But to really bring that in, it always has to be the only goal is that they get to experience the love of God that you have and that they have this freedom and this confidence and this overwhelming joy radiating through them that they get to experience every single day. And I think when we can bring in those elements through our actions, through revealing the fruits of the Spirit, that is the goal. The goal is not to have, now I can talk with them about all of these things, all of that, and now they can become that person for me. No. The goal is that they get to have their lives changed in the same way that you do. And so I think when you just are operating from that heart posture, the way God is brought into those relationships naturally will just shift. And I think bring those friendships along with you in your decisions, back to the whole communication, the boundaries, the stewardship. don't just peace out. Oh, they're not going to like it. They probably wouldn't want to come. They probably would get annoyed with these things. Actually bring them in and invite them. I've invited people so much, and I'm always like, you can always say no. You can always tell me I'm being annoying. That's okay. But I'll always invite. I'll always include. I'll always say, oh, no, like I don't want to go take that yoga class. And I don't have to go on this huge tangent. I can just say I don't want to. Like, oh, why? Then I can just say, I worship one God only. And for me, yoga is a form of worship to another God. And just that alone is like, wow, okay. You have boundaries, whether I agree with them or not. Like, you're solid in your thinking, and they're clear. And that alone does more than I think what you realize.
Yeah, 100%. All right, to wrap this episode up and to close you with some action steps to implement, I think one of the main key talking points we talked about today was stewardship. Huge one. We do not own our friends. We get to steward them, and God has entrusted us with that, so that's huge. Then next, we've got communication, really important. Being clear in communication and expectations and setting boundaries, and then also discernment. Being able to discern, is this a friendship I am capable of pouring into, I am able to steward and have the capacity for, or is this maybe one that I need to create some distance? And I'll leave you with the two last ones because they're fun.
My two little faves are, we are not easily offended in our friendships. Yeah. That is so important. And we need to sort that out before even bringing that into our friendships. And our favorite one of all time is having a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Being able to laugh at yourself, being able to laugh from a place of just joy and excitement with one another, and not taking things too seriously. And I also think exactly what you said, really just to leave you guys with this of, it is an honor. It is such an honor and a gift to be able to steward friendship. And what has been such a blessing in ours that has just kind of naturally happened with all of these things we've talked about is both of us view each other as God's daughter first. And it is so sweet. We say this all the time. Like, I'm just so honored that God trusted me to build a relationship with you. And that will reframe everything. When it's not a me, but it's a truly, whoa, this is your daughter that you're allowing me to spend time with, that you're allowing me to give advice to, that you're allowing me
that growth with,
to call out in areas. Like, that's a privilege. And that is nothing to expect.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Well, I hope this episode was so helpful. There's so many more questions we didn't get to. And if
we'll have to do another one.
A part 2, you just let us know.
Yeah.
But if you want to find this beautiful human online, her Instagram is
at Lena.born, and I'm sure you'll find me on Kayla's Instagram. We've been posting a bunch of content together.
So familiar faces. And you guys always know where to find me. But before you leave this episode, if this meant something to you, if you felt this would be helpful for you and your friendships or helpful for a friend or a family member, go ahead and share that. And we are here every single Wednesday. Make sure you rate this podcast if you have not already and leave a little review. I love reading them. And you can find me at Kayla Bundy Official and BibleBabes.co.
And a quick little announcement. This lovely lady over here has just launched her ebook, She Speaks. And for all the incredible women out there, it is a must read, especially if you want to grow in these areas of communication, discernment, and using your bold voice. I would really, really, really recommend checking that out.
What an encouraging friend! We love you. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you later.